Okay, the recording is going. All right, so we'll move on with more practices and controls. Station setup. Installing a mobile radio in a car has different issues. For permanent installations, the negative power return should be connected to the 12-volt battery chassis ground. The positive power lead should be connected to the 12-volt battery positive terminal. Both leads are typically fused. Let's see. Where should negative power return of a mobile transceiver be connected in a vehicle? Alpha at the 12-volt chassis ground, yes. Okay, so in mine, I did I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about, a little fuse tap. So I used a fuse tap to tap into a keyed, okay, so that if I leave the radio on in the car, it doesn't sit there and drain the battery while the car is off. So it's on a circuit where when I turn on the car, the radio turns on. When I turn off the car, the radio turns off. You can operate from batteries, portable or at home. Batteries have definitely have a finite amount of charge. I mean, you can run them dead. I've never run one of mine dead so far. To determine how long you can operate, divide the battery amp hour rating by the equipment average current draw. And it'll give you a good idea. So a 10 amp hour battery for a 1 amp average transceiver load would give you 10 hours of operation. And it can be a little more or a little less because some of the figures may not be positive, you know. How can you determine the length of time that equipment can be powered from a battery? Bravo, divide the battery amp hour rating, so don't let them fool you with the other ones there. Amp hour rating by the average current draw of the equipment. And keep in mind, average current draw is what somebody at the manufacturer determined what the average draw was. How you use your radio, it's going to be different. Microphone gain. Things like this don't have mic gain on them. The mic gain is how close you put your mouth to the mic hole. That's your gain on those. Adjust for proper audio modulation. Set too high, it can cause distortion on single sideband. Set too low, it can cause difficult copy. And I can, without mentioning any names, I can tell you that when you check in on the net on Wednesday night, you can tell which one is, and he knows exactly who I'm talking about. You can tell which one is overdriving his mic. And you can tell which one is shy real easily. But, nobody can see your face. They don't know who you are. Talk up. Adjust for proper audio modulation. Too high, audio distortion on single sideband. Set too low, it causes a difficult copy. Set too low, and that's just as bad, okay? Even though you're not causing any distortion, if people can't hear you, the result is the same. Setting a frequency of an FM transceiver above or below a signal's frequency will result in distorted audio. For an FM transceiver, so like these, if you're a little bit above or a little bit below, it'll cause distortion. And most of the radios are set so that unless you go inside and change the steps, they're set so that you're probably not going to experience that very much. But you can go 5 kilohertz off if you're in a fox hunt. Go 5 kilohertz off, and it makes it point a little better. To set the operating frequency, punch in a number on a keypad or rotate the VFO knob. Store it in a memory channel and recall it. And every radio, every single one is different how you do that. So programming channels, it's a big deal. The best thing to do is if you have a computer, download Chirp. I don't know if Chirp is available for Apple. It is? Okay. I've got a dead iMac sitting on my desk at home right now that, I don't know. I never did feel like I got my money's worth out of that computer, but I so wanted to change. Right. Okay. Do you have a Retevis that's not compatible with Chirp? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah. Yeah, the DMR requires a whole different thing. Yeah, Chirp hasn't begun to work on that yet. Punch in a number on a keypad, rotate the VFO knob. Neither of these have VFO knobs, so you're either going through channels that you've programmed or you're punching in on the keypad. You have to change it to VFO to do that. There's a difference between VFO and channels. So scanning always allows you to tune through a range of frequencies for activity. Scanning, and I can't tell you, I don't know if this one has a scan feature on it. This one does, but I can't remember how to activate it. It's probably in the menu, hidden somewhere in the menu to get it to scan. If you do use the scanning feature when you set your radio up on, if you're using Chirp, when you set the weather channels in there, the weather frequencies, there's a box that you can check that they're included or not included in the scan. You don't want your weather channels included in the scan. You want to go to your weather channel when you want to use it. Otherwise, the weather channel is fully transmitting all the time. That's one of those, it's 100% duty cycle. So every time it gets around to that weather channel, it's going to stop. So some radios can scan memory channels as well as frequency ranges. What is the effect of microphone gain on single sideband transmission? Bravo, distorted audio. Very good. What is the result of tuning an FM receiver above or below a signal frequency? Delta, let's see, yes, distortion of the signal's audio. Which of the following can be used to enter a transceiver's operating frequency? Alpha, the keypad or VFO knob. What is a way to enable quick access to a favorite frequency or channel on your transceiver? Bravo, store it in a memory channel. What does the scanning function of an FM transceiver do? Charlie, tunes through a range of frequencies to check for activity. When it finds something, it will stop. So if your weather channel is set to be included in the scan, when it reaches a weather channel, it will stop. And I've got 8 weather channels programmed in, so it would stop when it reaches each one. Let's see, squelch control, common on VHF, UHF transceivers. Its purpose is to mute the audio when there is no signal present. Adjustable level setting, mutes if signal is below the set level. When tuning a weak FM signal, set the squelch level so that the receiver audio is on all the time. Okay, so this one here, squelch is in the menu. You have to go through the menu to set it, and it's set for 0 through 9. 0 means no squelch. 1 through 9 is incrementally higher and higher and higher. And this incoming signal has to be above that level before it will trigger on. You can if I can remember which button it is, there's a squelch bypass on most radios. And when you press it, it will let everything come through. Okay, so without it, it's off. So let's see, squelch level, so the receiver audio is on all the time. Yeah, so what you would want to do if you want to go the scientific way of setting it, just find a weak signal that you want to be able to come through, and then start dialing it up until it reaches the point when it shuts it off, when it shuts that weak signal off, back off one, and then that's where you would want it set. Most people I think all of mine are set to 1. So whatever comes in, if it reaches the radio, it's good. What is the purpose of the squelch function? Bravo, mute the receiver audio when a signal is not present, or when a signal below what you want is present, but you don't want to hear it. Okay. How is squelch adjusted so that a weak FM signal can be heard? Okay, so set the squelch threshold so that the receiver audio output is on all the time. And I think what they're actually saying there is go into the settings and reduce the squelch to 0. That way everything goes through. UHF, or you just press that button on the side. VHF, UHF transceivers have a frequency offset setting, commonly used as a repeater offset, commonly referred to as a repeater offset. It's the difference between a repeater's transmit and receive signals. So did everybody see my email before the storm? Okay. And I think the last paragraph of that email, I said, if you want to listen to the local repeater and you have a radio already, set it to 145.370. And that's the downlink frequency. That's what the repeater transmits out to everybody. If you want to talk to that transmitter, if you want to talk to that repeater, your transmitter has to be set 600 kilohertz lower. So instead of 145.37, you're at 144.77, I think. But then you also have to have the PL tone, and we'll talk about that momentarily. Anyway, VHF repeaters use an offset of plus or minus 600 kilohertz. UHF repeaters use a transmitter offset of plus or minus 5 megahertz. Okay, 600 kilohertz versus 5 megahertz. And if you've ever looked at the frequency allotment, the 2-meter amateur band is 144 to 148. So that's only 4 megahertz width. Your UHF is significantly wider. You go from 420 to 450. So you've got 30 megahertz. So your offset on those, there's a bit more room for the offset. All right. Any questions on that? Okay, I see everybody nodding. Okay, the difference between a repeater's transmit, maybe I should start at the top, right? What is meant by a repeater offset? Alpha, the difference between a repeater's transmit and receive frequencies. VHF, plus or minus what? 600 kilohertz. And UHF? Plus or minus 5 megahertz. Takeaways, mobile battery. The positive power lead should be connected to the 12-volt battery positive terminal. The negative power return should be connected to the 12-volt battery chassis ground. To determine how long you can operate, divide the amp hours rating of the battery by the average current draw rating of the transceiver. Transceiver operation, microphone gain set too high causes distortion on single sideband, and it causes distortion pretty much anywhere. But set too low can cause difficult copy because people can barely hear you. And like I say, when you check into the nets, even though it's FM instead of single sideband, you can hear the difference from one to the next. Tuning. Setting a frequency of an FM transceiver above or below the signal's frequency will result in distorted audio of an FM signal. A little different on single sideband. To set the operating frequency, you would either dial it in on the keypad, or if you're lucky enough to have a VFO knob, then you turn the VFO knob. If you want it same frequency available regularly, you would want to store it into a memory channel. Scanning tunes through a range of frequencies to check for activities. Transceiver operation. Squelch control mutes receiver audio when a signal is not present, or when a signal lower than what you want to have is on there. Set the squelch level so that the receiver audio is on all the time for weak signals. VHF, UHF repeater operation. Frequency offset. Don't forget the offset, and also don't forget there's PL tones. I can't remember if we discuss that here next or not. The difference between a repeater's transmit and receive frequencies, VHF plus or minus 600 kilohertz, and UHF plus or minus 5 megahertz. Any questions?